Welcome, reptile entrepreneurs. Today we have Adeline Robinson, who is an incredible artist, and she's here to talk about art in the reptile community. Adeline, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. You're making me blush, man. What a welcome.
Oh man,
I'm
looking at
excited.
looking at those paintings, it's just incredible. It's like you can just stare at those scales forever and get lost in those scales, just like we do with our real reptiles.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
so
would I
that
would love to count to see how many scales I've drawn total because that would be
I,
that would be really funny to know.
Well, let's start off with just what it is that you do.
It's actually really I always feel so funny whenever people that are outside of the industry ask me what I do. Like, what do you do? Well, I'm a reptile artist. I mean,
Yeah.
I call myself a wildlife artist, but I mostly specialize in exotic reptiles and aquatics and amphibians as well, because that's what I've spent a lot of time working with and spent a lot of hands-on experience with. But yeah, reptile
Uh,
artist.
okay, so how did we in the reptile community get lucky enough to have you?
I've always been keeping reptiles my entire life. I used to dream of going herping, and like that was always huge goals for me. I actually didn't realize it was a thing people did until probably like 2010 or 11 or so, when I started meeting more and more people that were into what I was into. And I had a friend of mine that she used to go to the Tinley Park Reptile Show. She told me
Hmm.
about it all throughout high school, and I never was quite able to make it out until like about 2011.
Okay.
And I was just going to check it out. I loved reptiles. I love finding them, but I didn't really know anything about the community or, I guess what this whole industry is. So I went and checked out my first show, and I just had a blast with it. I'm like, oh, these people love reptiles as much as I do. Like, it's a
Hmm.
party. This is great. And pretty much ever since then, I've just been, working with expos and doing educational shows, working at pet stores and wildlife centers. So I've been working with animals for a very long time. And so the artwork I've been doing for a long time as well, but I didn't quite combine them until much later.
So do you keep reptiles?
I do, yes. Since I've started this, I've downsized a lot. It just got to be a little bit much traveling to shows and trying to get
Hmm.
work done and trying to manage a collection too. So I currently keep tree monitors and gargoyle geckos, and I've got a couple other animals that I used to do educational shows with that are still here. But that's kind of what it's come down to, surprisingly. I used to have all kinds of stuff.
So you've got hands-on experience on reptiles and what you're painting.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And it's really funny too because I've only drawn my own personal animals a couple times.
okay.
I always draw everybody else's pets, and people are like, "Oh, you must draw you must have art of all of your pets at home." I'm like, "Actually, I kind of don't." So I'm starting to work my way down, making actually a poster for tree monitors. That's what the current project that I'm working on is trying to do a different species poster, and then I've done a
Uh-huh.
couple of my other guys too.
Okay. Now I used the word painting. Is that correct? What is it? What is the media you use?
So primarily, I'm using Copic markers and micron pens.
Okay.
It's almost like a toss up between the words, honestly, because I'm not technically using paint, but I'm using inks. So usually I'll say like Copic marker drawing. But I do work in other mediums as well. So I do have Posca paint markers. I use acrylic paints as well for
Okay.
like the last donation that I did for the last Tinley Park Reptile Show was partially acrylics and Posca markers. So I do like to dabble in a bunch of different mediums, but Copic markers, the alcohol-based markers are kind of my number one right now.
Okay. Now, my audience is going to be especially interested in the business side of being an artist within the reptile community. And so let's start at the beginning of when you said, "Hey, I could make this a business." What was that point?
I almost kind of joke that it wasn't quite started out of spite, but it was started out of frustration in
Sounds
where
like
I
a
was
good
at.
story.
Exactly. I had been, involved in the community for a long time. I was working at a pet store, and everybody that I worked with, we were all very close. And I ended up getting a job offer to move out of state to work for an auction company, and moved everything, moved my whole life out there. And it wasn't quite what they had told me it was going to be.
Mhm.
And so just with spending more and more time working there, it was just sapping every bit of creative energy I had. It was just kind of consuming everything that I had once enjoyed. I no longer was enjoying. I
Okay.
was just frustrated with it. So I started doing a little bit of artwork on the side to try to bring myself back to the community that I had left. And I was drawing reptiles, and with having friends in the reptile community, I had a couple people go, "Hey, I'd love to commission you to draw my snake, or I'd love to commission you to draw this piece." It's like, "Oh, like me, really?"
Hmm.
Um, and so it kind of slowly built up from there. I ended up creating an Instagram because a friend was asking if I had an art page. No, I don't have an art page. I guess I'll make one now. So it kind of all, I feel like I stumbled into it and then just kind of
Okay.
went with it. Um, so then from there, I was taking up so many commissions that by the time I'd get home at like 8 o'clock at night, I'd stay up till like midnight, one, working on something, get up early for
Mm.
work, spend all day at
Oh
work, come
wow.
back home. So it
Yeah.
just got to be a lot, and I was at the point where I was able to definitely make do with just doing my commission work, and I couldn't go into my job anymore. So I put in my notice, and ended up just going full time with the artwork. And I'm super lucky. I've got a very supportive partner that was definitely pushing
Okay.
that and encouraging that too. So it
Oh,
definitely
good.
helped.
And how long ago was this?
February of 2020, so right before,
Oh wow.
oh,
Okay.
yeah, right before everything happened. So I
Yeah.
actually, it was kind of again, kind of stumbling into everything. Um, it was, yeah, February or so. So then I was getting ready for the March Tinley show. That was going to be my first debut, like my first big show of me by myself as an artist, not vending with anybody else or with animals. And I put like every penny that I had into getting prints made and trying to make stickers. And I was so new at this, like I had no idea, how I was going to get it all together, but I did. And then it all got canceled.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that time.
Yeah.
That is so
So
painful.
it was. Thank you. So yeah, like literally everything I had pretty much went into inventory and merchandise for the show. But it was really amazing because a lot of the people that had organized the show and members of the community were like, "Hey, we're all in the same boat. We're all working really hard to
Hmm.
make this show happen. It didn't happen. Let's all support each other and support each other's business." And so there was a really, I just would say like an amazing period of time where everyone was sharing each other's business. Everyone was trying to help each other out. Everyone's trying to get, you know, I guess different types of services from other people in the community as well, since we're all in the same boat. A lot of people had lost their jobs, and it was really nice to see the community come together like that and help each other.
Okay. So is this now your full time job?
Yes, yeah, since February 2020.
All right. So you shoved off of a regular 9 to 5 quotes 9 to 5 job to
Hmm.
be an artist full time. Obviously, you were getting work, but that's a big step. What gave you the confidence that this would continue and that you could do this full time?
It was super terrifying. I think that was like the scariest part of the whole thing was just making the jump and making the leap to be able to do it. But honestly, continuing encouragement from friends and family has helped a lot. Because I mean,
Okay.
we all have moments where we try something new and it's terrifying and you don't know if you can do it. But when you've got really good friends around you or a good support system, they're like, "No, you got this. Like, don't give up. Just keep going with it."
Okay.
I'm definitely very grateful to have a good support system.
Yeah. Now, artists, crafters, and other creatives, they're constantly challenged to place a monetary value on their work. How did you do this for yourself?
That is a great question that I would love to know. Um, it's tough. It really is difficult, especially when you're just starting out. You may not feel confident in your work. You feel like, you're still learning. You look up at somebody that you've admired for a long time and you don't know how you can compare to that. And I mean, it's definitely really difficult. I talk pricing with friends. I've had a bunch of people approach me, and the best, I guess, advice I could give and what I've kind of applied for myself would be, find kind of the skill level you're at and see if there's any other artists doing something kind of similar. within that skill
Hmm.
set that you have, kind of on the same level, take into account the amount of supplies that you're using, what you're using, how much time it's taking. There's a lot of people I know that, will put so much time and effort into work, and they're not even getting half of minimum wage, because
Mm-hmm.
they're undervaluing themselves. And so I notice I see it a lot. I'm very guilty of it. When I first started out, like I felt like my work wasn't worthy of people wanting to purchase it. And thankfully, just with, again, encouragement and continuing to work and continuing to push myself and realize how much time and effort, and basically, like, I put every bit of myself into one of the pieces that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So, that counts for something. And it can take a while to learn, but it's very important. So I see that all the time where artists just really undervalue themselves, and I just try to let them know to remember, like, hey, your time is worth something, your energy is worth something, your skills that you've developed, your materials, it's all worth something. And just kind of chat with other creatives too.
Yeah, I love art. I love drawing. I love working with art, but there'd be no way that I could make something at the level that you do. And so that is worth something to, it's worth a lot to me, and it should be worth a lot to anybody who would like something nice on their wall. What all services do you offer?
So I do fine art portraiture, basically like high detail realism pieces of animals is what I mostly specialize in, but I also do a lot of logo work and graphic design and banner designs as well. So I've been helping with quite a few businesses with their logos, getting their business cards together, basically helping them create a brand for themselves. So that way
Hmm.
they've got, an identity that you recognize the second you see anything from them. So that's another thing that I do specialize in as well.
Okay. And how is your time split up between those different services?
It's very scattered at the moment. I keep
Okay.
trying to, I feel like, schedule myself in a way that I will have kind of an equal amount of time for both. Um, but it's very difficult because I'm very all in with each one of my
Hmm.
projects. So currently, the way I have logo schedules is if somebody books a logo with me, they have a 1 week block where that week I'll only be working on their logo specifically. So I'll be chatting with them, I'll be going back and forth. We'll have a discussion at the beginning of the week, and I'll show them progress throughout the week. And usually by the end of the week, it's completed and they have their files as needed. And of course, like I chat with people outside of that as well. And if I've got time, I'll try to sneak in some traditional work.
Hmm.
Sometimes it gets a little bit difficult depending on the weeks. Like I wasn't expecting to do any shows until late April, and now I've got 3 shows
Oh,
before
hey.
late April. So sometimes, some things kind of change my plans up a little bit. But yeah, I'm hoping to kind of schedule in some more traditional, fine art time in between the commissions. It's kind of tough scheduling it, but we work with it and roll with it, and I'm very lucky where I've got a lot of very understanding clients that totally get it. They see me at the shows, and so they know what's going on.
Hmm.
um, but yeah, that's about it right now.
And how far out are you booked up?
Currently, I would say like the first week or two of May, I believe. I'm actually going to be probably pushing them out so I've got a little bit more space in between rather than just the back-to-back weeks. So I might be doing every other is kind of an idea that I've been playing with, but currently till like early May.
Now, do you have to do any scheduling manipulations to make sure that you don't get burned out doing things back to back to back?
Yeah, burnout's very real.
Yeah.
um, it it happens to me the most when I'm overwhelmed with projects. And so I'm a yes person. I love to try to make
Okay.
everybody happy, and I try to help everyone with their projects. And so previously, like mostly last summer or kind of like later in the year, I would have like 10 projects going at a time. And so I'm splitting my time trying to
Wow.
make sure I get each one of these things done. And that to me is kind of what gets me to the point of burnout where I'm just a bit overwhelmed. There's too much, it may not be a whole lot individually, but just having that many projects at once is
Hmm.
just too much. So now I've definitely cut back, I've scaled down so that way I only have the one logo per week, and that has helped a lot. But I do always have other side projects as well. And so it's kind of having to learn to balance that has been really difficult. And I feel like I'm still learning, honestly. Anytime I try something new, I feel like I'll learn something new that I will need to adjust myself for.
Hmm.
So it's less projects. That definitely helps.
Yeah, on my side, trying to balance between two different podcasts with each with a video channel and an Instagram channel is just there's just so many things all at once that you just want to throw it up in the air and say forget it.
It's a
I'm
lot,
just
yeah. For any business,
yeah.
especially like not including the business itself, but the social media aspect and the
Hmm.
marketing aspect, pushing yourself, making connections, posting to groups, being interactive with people. Like there is so much to starting a small business. I had no idea when I first
Yeah.
started, and it gets really overwhelming. But thankfully now I feel like a lot of us are sharing our experiences with it. So there's resources for new people that want to come in. Thanks to your channel and folks that want to help and support new members of the community.
So, how much of your time do you find has to be devoted to marketing?
A lot, uh, more than I expected. The difficult part about what I do is I have to create content to create content.
Yes.
And then, I there's a lot of days I'm tempted to just take some photos of my animals and, make a funny post or like say, hey, show me your pets or something.
Uh-huh.
But now that I've downsized quite a bit, I don't think I can get away with that anymore. But yeah, so the pushing yourself to create content is really tough, especially with artists, because the second I hop on Instagram and I'll scroll, I'll see 20, 30 artists back to back working on stuff.
Hmm.
And my brain immediately goes, "Oh, you're not working on something right now. You didn't post today. You didn't, you got to
Yeah.
start doing that." And it's something we do.
Yeah.
And a lot of
All around.
time, yeah, like for everybody, and a lot of
Hmm.
time and effort goes into that. And so I know a lot of artists that get completely burnt out and they'll take some time off of social media to try to regroup themselves because it's a lot to handle, and the algorithms have been making it really difficult lately. Uh, a couple
Yes.
years ago, when I first started, I had a wonderful amount of community around me. I was doing daily live videos or so, just showing people what I was working on. I was working on these tiny canvases. There's actually one over there. These little tiny canvases every day and chatting with people and just sharing my work. But there wasn't a need to post daily, to make a daily reel. I didn't have TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and, YouTube and
Hmm.
all the platforms to try to compete with. And they've definitely made things a lot more difficult in terms of getting followers. And I've noticed a huge decrease, and I've been talking to quite a few other artists right now that we're all saying the same thing, just a huge decrease right now in views and follows because they want you to pay for advertising. So it's difficult, but just got to keep going with it.
Yes. What does a normal day look like for you?
Depends on the day, but typically I try to get up. I When I first went full time, I was doing really good and I was working out in the mornings and making myself some healthy meals and whatnot. I kind of dropped off. I'm hoping to get back to it again. But usually I'll wake up, I'll get some coffee, get showered and get ready for work. Check messages, try to get back to clients. If I've got a lot of projects going on, I may not get back to messages until like later in the day. Sometimes the project itself takes my entire attention the whole day, or several days.
Okay.
So usually it's kind of whatever I'm working on. If I've got logos that week, I'll just be finishing and focusing on the client's logos. If I've got personal work that I can fit in there, I will. And then that doesn't include getting everything photographed, having my boyfriend Chris photograph and edit and get everything ready for print, going to the printers and getting backing boards ordered and all that fun stuff.
Hmm. Hmm. And so, how do you schedule in a day off? And this isn't just an interview question. This is me personally as an entrepreneur saying, how do you
Yeah.
do it?
Uh, I don't know if I ever have like anything scheduled. Usually it's, hey, do I have enough wiggle room to be able to catch up on work, you know, and get something finished by the deadline? Yeah, I think I've got a little bit of wiggle room by then. So then I'll, go for a bike ride or meet up with some friends or something. It doesn't happen very often, but usually it's more of a like, can I sneak away? I think I can. I think I could get stuff done. But I'm hoping that going forward with scheduling things out a little bit farther apart, I can take a little bit of personal time because it's a bit nonstop at the moment.
Yeah. And especially when you're doing it yourself, and there is no weekend when you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, that was shows too. So I'm trying to
Oh,
do
yeah.
client work in between shows and trying to get ready for the shows as well. So it's just a lot.
Well, how do you decide on what personal projects to do? Because you have to make that decision. Do I spend the time doing art time with something that's not paying me? And if I'm spending this time on something that's not paying me doing art, does that lead me closer to burnout on the stuff that is paying me? How do you balance that?
Um, what I was doing for a while was doing an every other type of method. So there's a lot of species that people are usually looking for that they have pets of that they would love to see artwork of. And I totally get that. Like I love getting tree monitor artwork because I keep tree
Mm-hmm.
monitors. And so everybody's kind of in the same boat of, wanting artwork of the animals that they have at home. So I get requests all the time of like when I first started, I had no ball python artwork at all. It was all like monitors and like vipers and whatnot. And so I had a lot of people approach me like, "Hey, do you have any ball python prints?" Oh, no, I don't. And show after show, I notice, people are looking for stuff. And I would like to be
Okay.
able to, I would love to draw one of everything, ideally. So what I do is I work on kind of a request list. And then every other piece, I do something personal, which is usually kind of the venomous or the monitors or, whatever I happen to be interested in. Sometimes it's literally just a photo that I think is really striking of a cool pose or coloration that an animal has. So I try to do every other so it doesn't get me, a little too burnt out over drawing the same thing.
Okay. Let's change gears here and talk to the listeners who are interested in becoming an artist within the reptile community. What would you say about life as a professional artist?
I would definitely say there is a lot going into it that you may not realize when you first start out, because I know I didn't, especially with marketing and with getting your social media together, promoting yourself. That is a huge part of the business. There's a lot of artists I know that are incredibly talented and have amazing work, but they have a really hard time getting work because they won't push themselves and they won't promote themselves, which I know is really exhausting because it takes a lot of work to do
Mm-hmm.
that. It's kind of a like you never really get a good night's sleep, because you're focused on that. When you're first starting out, I feel like it's a lot of a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas. I would say write those ideas down. Try to think of, a business model or business plan before you really jump in and get started because it can be really overwhelming when you're trying to establish yourself and you're learning how to brand yourself and how to promote yourself too. So I would say definitely do a lot of research. Look at artists that you admire, look at artists that, you look up to or just find really interesting and pay attention to what's making that work. It's
Okay.
really important, I think, to not only do that, but continue working on your style, developing your work. Sometimes people jump the gun and their artwork they haven't quite spent a whole lot of time on it, or they're still learning and they're still trying to develop it, and they put themselves out there, and then they may not get as many clients because they if they just pushed themselves a little bit more and kept working on their skill a little bit more, it would help them out. So
Okay.
it's kind of a lot of different things to think about, but it's good to step back, make lists, and try to look at the big picture of what you're gonna eventually want or what you want to see yourself doing. I had no
Okay.
idea when I first started. I had no idea of what I would be doing specifically. I just knew I love drawing reptiles and I want to do this full time, but I didn't quite realize, what I would be doing and what that would look like, what I would need to learn and what I would need to do to make that happen. So lots of research, and I feel like for all artists in general, not giving up, which,
Okay.
if you're a newer artist and you're struggling and you're having a really hard time and you're not happy with your work, everybody feels that way. Everybody feels the exact same way about their artwork. And the thing too is the better you get, the higher your standards get. And so, we all will see flaws in our work, like everybody does, even if it's a really amazing piece. I guarantee almost every artist will go, yeah, but that one little spot, like I totally could have done
Hmm.
it a little differently. Because that's just part of changing and developing an eye. So, that's part of the process, and to be nice to yourself and then keep going with it and just keep having an open mind to learning, I think is one of the biggest things.
Can you think of, let's say, one thing that would be that a beginning artist might run into that would be very discouraging that they should watch out for?
Oh, for sure. People will ask for work and ghost you sometimes. It's happened to
Okay.
me. It's happened to, a lot of artists I know, where they'll want something commissioned and they'll want you to do artwork, and then you'll do artwork, and when it comes time to paying for said artwork or the time you spent into it, or, you know, any type of compensation, they'll just disappear. And so, it's definitely need to keep an eye out for those types of clients. It's good to talk to people beforehand, get a good idea of who they are, and to not feel like your artwork isn't worth anything if certain people don't, you know, meet where you should be.
Well, let's go through a scenario. Say I want to commission a piece of artwork. What would be the steps for me to go through?
So typically, I ask people to refer to my website because I have commission info on there. So I've got a logo area, I've got like a fine art area on my website. So I have pretty much everything laid out of the terms and the way I will start on the logo and kind of the process. So typically, I ask people to check that out first and then let me know if
Mhm.
there's a certain package they're interested in. Once they place a deposit to secure their slot, we'll figure out what week is theirs and what week I'll be working on their piece. So sometimes that's pretty far out for a few months, and usually I let them know, like, hey, I'll be here. Think of ideas if you want. Think of any reference photos if there's an animal in particular that you want featured in the logo. And by the time it comes to be your logo time, then we'll discuss it. We'll chat about ideas. I'll send you a draft, and then if you're happy with the draft, we can proceed with it. If you want other things changed, this is the time to do it. So usually we'll knock out, we'll sometimes go back and forth of like, hey, I think this looks better, or that looks better. We'll try it out, and then from there proceed with the design.
Okay.
So I definitely like to make sure that anybody I do work for, they're happy with it and that it's the way they wanted it to be. Um, I'm more than happy to offer my suggestion and what I think would look good. But at the end of the day, if someone wants a dragon that's riding a unicorn holding a gecko in the air and they want that, who am I to tell them no? So, I definitely I chat with them about, what makes an effective logo and whatnot, but try to bring their ideas and, what they want to life.
But then you make their dreams come true.
I try.
Now, would there be a difference between me wanting to commission a portrait of my panther chameleon for hanging on the wall and me wanting to have some artwork that I could put on t-shirts that I sell?
Yes, actually, and that's actually something I've been talking about today. So yeah, the fine art portrait commissions, you're paying for an original piece, not necessarily the licensing to be
Mm-hmm.
able to reproduce or continue to use that for other things. And so I continue to hold the right to that artwork, but the client gets the original. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a really special thing that nobody else will have. Typically, I'll refer people to the logo and the business part of my website where if they would like to get a fine art piece licensed, we could definitely chat about that and what will go into, getting the files and being able to get everything done for it.
All right. Well, let's look into the future. Where do you think you're going to be taking this?
I'm hoping to kind of continue what I'm doing, to be honest. I really love what I do and I really enjoy it a lot and I have a lot of fun with it. My one of my favorite parts is traveling to different shows. I never would have had the opportunity to do that before. I never really got to, take vacations or take time off with a steady job that, you're required at. It can be really difficult getting any time off. And so
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to actually, drive down to Florida to attend the Daytona show and to go to Arlington, Texas, and um, pretty pretty exciting. And it's a lot of fun being able to meet people from all over and to be able to go herping when I can. I definitely want to get some more herping time in to get some photos of the animals when I'm out in the field. But yeah, I mean, I love what I'm doing now, so I would love to continue growing it, maybe on a larger scale. But I just love drawing animals.
Okay. Well, let's. Any final thoughts for our budding artists as to getting started?
I would say to continue to work on their artwork and developing their style, what they really enjoy, pushing themselves to be the best artist that they can be. Because I feel like at the end of the day, we're all doing that. And not to get discouraged, even with your own work or with client, maybe not getting clients or clients that, are wishy-washy, not to let that completely stop them from their work. Because I've had plenty of times where I'm not happy with my work, or I've had people approach me wanting stuff and then you never hear from them, and that's not a reflection of you. That's a reflection of them, and you just
Mm.
got to put the time in to continue developing, continue growing.
Adeline, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experiences and your insight and inspiration for the artists in the reptile community.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome talking about it, and I love trying to share what I've learned with folks, and so I'm really excited for your channel and for the reptile entrepreneurs of tomorrow. It's exciting.
If somebody wants to know more about your artwork and get in contact with you, what's the best way?
You can follow me on social media at Adeline Robinson Art, or go to AdelineRobinsonArt.com for my website.
Adeline, thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you. You too.